When I was young, one of my favorite books was an obscure title called Baby Island. Think of Baby Island as kind of a mashup between the Babysitter's Club series and Robinson Crusoe. In this story, there are two young girls, about 9 or 10 years old, who love babies. They're on a ship with some families, and then disaster strikes. The ship starts to sink, the children are all loaded onto some lifeboats, and the two girls find themselves on a deserted island alone with four babies. Now, what I loved about this book and what really stuck with me through the years was just how prepared they were. The oldest of the two sisters always carried an emergency kit with her, so she was ready for this worst case scenario. In her kit, she had some matches, a little sewing set, some scissors, if I remember correctly, some dental floss, just what you might need if you're stranded on a desert island. So although I was never a scout, like a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout, I did carry with me this goal to be prepared. And perhaps that was most prevalent when I was a new mom and I was packing my diaper bag. It was a utilitarian black backpack model. Snacks, check. Diapers, check. Wipes, check. Change of clothes for the baby and the mom, check, check, check. Back then, I think my worst case scenario was a messy blowout diaper. So fast forward a few years, our little family has grown to have 3 children under the age of 5. We moved to Southern California, and I got the idea that it would be wise to take these kids to every child-friendly tourist attraction within a 3-hour drive. Off we headed in our trusty minivan to SeaWorld Park, San Diego Zoo, Legoland, and of course Disney. The backpack wasn't big enough for all the stuff I needed to bring, but luckily I had that minivan. So in went the strollers, the case of water, a picnic blanket. I even had a pack of playing cards because I thought if we got stranded, at least we'd have something to do. So when I lost my place. So I thought I was ready for anything because I had all the stuff with me. And when my kids got a little bit older, I tried to teach them to be responsible for their own belongings as well. I think I started those lessons a little too young with them, but you'll find out more about that in a second. When we were going as a family on a 6-week trip to England, I encouraged them to pack their own carry-on bags for the plane. Definitely should have checked those bags before we got to the airport. The first thing I knew, we were going through security, the alarms were going off, and the TSA agent was pulling out an 8-inch long, sharp piece of rusty metal from my son's backpack. It turned out my 2-year-old thought it would be a good idea to bring a piece of rebar with him on the trip. I don't know what kind of worst case scenario he was preparing for, but I do know that I felt very lucky that we were allowed on the plane. Of all my 3 children, my oldest, George, was the one who most emulated this prepared pack rat kind of mentality. I don't know whether it was genes, the genetics, or whether it was my stellar example, or it was just the kind of books he read. He had one book, one fictional character that was his favorite, which was a young girl who would always carry with her a bucket full of emergency supplies. So I think it kind of ran in the family. In any event, by the time he was in his teens, he had his own black backpack, not a diaper bag this time, but a tactical one with straps on the exterior and a bunch of pockets on the inside. George's friends came to know him as the one who always had snacks, a light if you smoked, one of those thin foil emergency blankets if you got cold, lots and lots of chargers, modern days, or just a first aid kit if you needed something. George really prided himself and took great pleasure in being the one who had just what somebody might need if they were in a dicey situation, and he often was. So the thing about worst case scenarios is that no matter how well you think you've prepared, they're the worst. And you can have done a lot to get ready for them, but you're really not going to be ready for what comes next. So the hardest thing I've ever had to do was to go through my son George's belongings after he passed away when he was 20 years old of a drug overdose. They're just a few feet from where he succumbed alone. was his first aid kit, just out of reach, but complete with a dose of Narcan that could have saved his life. So he was ready to help his friends, he was ready to help someone else, but he couldn't help himself under these circumstances. So a few weeks ago, I decided to trade in my cavernous bucket of a purse, which was big enough to carry everything I needed and a little bit more. It was heavy though, and I think I also, I'm sorry, it was heavy, just like the worry that I'd carried for all those years, trying to be perfectly ready for whatever horrible thing might befall me. Now I'm carrying a smaller, compact crossbody bag that can only contain the bare essentials and a little dental floss. I may not be ready for anything, but I am hopefully going to walk a little bit lighter going forward. Thanks for listening.